Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Shooting Rabbits in a Barrel, a podcast brought to you by Scarecrow Consultants. I am completely thrilled today to be joined by Courtney. Hello.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here too because I'm a fangirl of yours. I came into one of your podcasts one time and was just in the chat, just clapping and cheering you on. I love you.
Yeah, it's mutual. We Courtney and I have fangirled each other on LinkedIn and in the systems engineering space for possibly a number of years by now.
Yeah.
But this is the first time we're really getting to sit down and chat, so we're delighted, listeners, that you can also join us for it. Courtney, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit for our listeners?
Yeah, sure thing. So I have been doing systems engineering for 25 years. I worked for Incosi for a large portion of that. I am now in sales for Spec Innovations. I did NASA work at one point, and I'm just one of those people who I do apply systems engineering in my life activities also, whether my loved ones appreciate that or not. So yeah, I just think that systems thinking, systems engineering is useful in all the ways.
Amazing. Do you also get the side eye like, are you systems engineering this again? And you're like, no.
Oh, absolutely. And not even a question, but more of hey, stop being an engineer, or sometimes people are allowed to have preferences that are not needs. Yeah.
No, it has to be. It's in our blood. We have to engineer the situation.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Oh my goodness, so many things already about the NASA thing. Oh no, no, we're gonna continue with the podcast. So we're gonna come back to these exciting things. To remind our listeners, we ask our guests two questions on shooting rabbits. What story would you like to share with us today, and what valuable systems engineering lesson did you learn? So, Courtney, what story would you like to share with us today?
Okay. So this is going to sound deep and personal, but I just feel like it's kind of useful for to give the consequences of things. So I have 19-year-old twins, and my twins were born extremely prematurely. And so that meant they had a lot of hospital time, a lot of doctor time, a lot of medications, therapy, all that kind of stuff. And it was there's an interesting things with twins, again, trying to engineer the situation, where sometimes you're like, well, what if I just take this one to the doctor and only have to pay these fees and make these appointments for one of them, and I just get information that I can apply to the other one. And we even had doctors sometimes say that to us. They were like, I understand your insurance won't pay for more medication for this one, but just I'll prescribe it for the other one. And
Oh,
right. So
yeah.
much appreciated. Um, but one time, the whole family was sick, and I'm taking one baby. This is like a 1-year old. Taking the baby to the doctor, hey, baby's coughing a lot, just seems sick. And I have the other one, not exactly in the corner, but this is in they're in the baby carrier thing. And so I had brought both kids to the doctor, and we're there for my daughter. And the doctor's like, she's okay, but he's not. And so I had not even, I wasn't trying to cheap out or anything. I just hadn't even considered that my son was sick enough to be at the doctor. He was so sick that she had him taken by ambulance to the hospital, and he spent a week in the hospital.
Oh,
And he's okay, they're 19. This was a long time
yeah,
ago.
yeah,
Everyone's
yeah.
fine. But the point that this made for me was that I, as a very educated, proactive person, didn't have the awareness to see the change from healthy enough to be at home, sick enough to be at the doctor, sick enough to be at the hospital. It was such an obvious thing to her, the expert,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of the specialist on this. And to me, it wasn't obvious. And so I think that it had to do with knowing that we had changed phases, that we had changed from a healthy operational phase into a maintenance phase.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there's other things in life that are like that, but I think this one, and everything turned out okay, but it just really struck me as kind of to question, should I be the person who's making this judgment? But of course, I was the only person available to make that judgment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, husband, family, supportive, all that kind of stuff. But just like, it was a situation where that I think we run into fairly often of, should I get medical care, and making that decision. And we're winging it, whether we're on Chat GPT or sending photos to our friends, or, I don't know, trying to solve things that we just we're both in over our heads knowledge wise. And then also typically we are in the situation emotion wise, that our judgment is not at its best.
Yeah. And especially if it's a health thing for yourself, you're almost hoping, you're looking for any excuse for it to not be serious, right? Like, oh no, I'm sure it's fine. Well, this one friend said it was fine. 4 friends said probably you should go get that checked out. But one friend said no, it's fine. Okay.
I think you make a really good point with that. We have a vested interest in the outcome, right? We're not like, oh, it's either this or that. Let's try to find the correct answer. We're kind of trying to get the answer we want.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I think I can see where we're going with this. So in terms of that story and the associated context, what valuable systems engineering lessons are there for us to pull out?
Yeah. So when I think, like I said, I do apply, systems engineering to all things. And I think that even if I still stay in the medical side of it, the concept of like annual checkups and kind of routine check-ins with experts, as opposed to let's wait until the dummy on the topic, have assessed that I need help, and then I go for it. So on the systems engineering side, I think we're really good at milestone reviews, at decision points, at formally establishing what are the criteria, and then implementing them, but only when we think to do that. And so I think it actually, SE lesson, I don't know, kind of SE challenge opportunity, need to figure it out, because I do think it comes up a lot in projects that we think, I don't need to bring in the subject matter expert on this topic. I have it good enough. And we don't have criteria established for, do I need, like, when is the point that I have to bring in a reliability expert? Or when is it basic enough that the systems engineer or the mechanical engineer can do it themselves? And so, I'm not quite to the lesson learned, but maybe the need for lesson identified still.
For sure. And even what you just said there made me think of 10 other things. Do you think as systems engineers, or in your experience, we get there's like a certain thrill to like knowing a little bit of everything on the project and being that person who, and actually speaking of NASA, one of my career goals when I was at uni was, I want to be the systems engineer on a spacecraft, because you are the person in mission control who sat there on behalf of the spacecraft and says, go for launch. And I was like, this is what I want to do with my life. So there's like there's a feeling of, as a systems engineer, no, it's okay, I got this, because I've spoken to all the people. I'm the person who's got all these connections in my head and I can do it. And do you think that stops people from seeking subject matter expert help at the right time?
Oh gosh, I think something else stops them. And I think it's the external request for them to have that authority, right? That someone else, I personally tend a lot toward humility, support. Let me lead the meetings and ask the questions so that the people hear all of the right information. But I generally haven't been the decision maker. I've generally been the person who tells them what question they're supposed to answer. So I'm forming it that way. But I do get, and I've seen pushback to bringing in the subject matter experts, whether it's we don't have any, or the subject matter experts will sometimes say, oh, I'm not an expert on that. Well, you're so much more of an expert than I am.
Yeah.
So they don't want the go to launch. And I think that we've probably all of us in engineering have done a lot of NASA analysis, case studies, looking at that kind of thing, where one person says, no, not okay to launch, and everyone else says, no, I'm sure it's fine. Uh, it, it's just messy on that. Yeah, I think that as systems engineers, though, we do like to know a little bit of everything,
Mm-hmm.
like you said about that. And there's going to swing way away. Well, I guess still aviation side.
Love
Um,
it.
I met my husband because he was my ground school instructor for me to become a private pilot. I did not become a private pilot, but that is how I met him.
Okay.
Um, and so private piloting is like something is a topic that I'm familiar with. Airlines have connections in there. I'm familiar with that. And small planes are sometimes referred to as lawyer killers or doctor killers because the confident and wealthy lawyers and doctors go into aviation with the money to go into aviation and become private pilots, but also the confidence in the industry that they come from, that they think, I am good at everything I've ever tried. I'm going to be good at this too. And so they get a little bit of experience and they become overconfident. And so hence lawyer killers and doctor killers. So I think that that's getting a little bit at what you're talking about of when we're good at stuff and we're the people who have the answers, then we can get overconfident and think we have answers. And I think looking back on my original story, there might have been some of that I had also of, hey, I'm a person who has good judgment. And in this case, I didn't. But then I'll take it one other direction, which is if raising the alarm gets us swatted down, then we learn not to raise the alarm. And so this kind of gets to empathy and supportive environment and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and all this psychological safety in projects and allowing people to speak up and to show that they don't know something and that they're not. There's no toxic feeling around that of like, no, you should have known this. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I think so that's, on the SE lessons learned. I think that is something we can absolutely continue to get right and improve on is let's make sure that we are allowing people to raise their hand and say, I think maybe I have a phase change here. I think maybe we need to switch from operations into maintenance, or we need to bring in a subject matter expert and have. So maybe if we don't, we might not have like the routine rigor, annual checkups, but maybe we do have the receptive audience
Mm-hmm.
that when you say we might need help, that they're ready for that.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's leave that as our overarching lesson as eloquently
Okay.
as you have. Well,
Can,
unless there's anything else.
so I actually have a great way to sum it up.
Let's do it.
So one of my earliest employers was Booz Allen Hamilton, and they said the two ways that you could fail at this company are if you don't ask for help when you need it, or if someone asks you for help and you don't give it to them. I've taken that with me forever.
I love that. That is so good. I think that's going to go on a post-it note on my wall alongside. Yeah, yes, you can't see because the camera's up. I have post-it notes of wise things people have said. Wow. Okay. Fab. Courtney, thank you so much. There's 100 more things I want to ask you. But we're going up to time, so I'm going to pause it there. And listeners, you'll have to join us another time because Courtney and I are probably going to speak for another half an hour after this. But yes, okay, listeners, if you are inspired and want to come and share your own story and your own lesson, you can get in touch with us at rabbits@scarecrowconsultants.co.uk. Courtney, thank you so much for joining us. It was
Thanks for having me.
Anytime. You can come back anytime. Yeah, listeners, we'll see you again next time.
Bye.
Bye.